The things that we've taken to Samoa, this list is, we've had these hearing aids donated by Hearing Matters, Attune Hearing, Bay Audiology and Amplifon. We're getting a lot of second-hand hearing aids handed in. Mostly they are medium power aids because that's what the population's like here, but we do get some high power ones which are extremely useful, and we've got the bone anchored hearing aids are for some of the cases I'll show you later where there isn't an ear canal, and they're about $6,000-7,000 each, and we've managed to get refurbished ones due to a kind soul in Cochlea who has passed them on, and we've managed to keep up with demand. So they can't be repaired, when they break they're just thrown away, but they've kept us supplied with them, and the bands that they're worn with. We've an enormous number of cochlear implant processors because the children here have moved on to a new processor and the old ones are not used. So Next Sense have given us an awful lot of processors. The lady's eyes lit up in Samoa who does the cochlear implant stuff. They've got the software and they can program them, and they're in touch with Next Sense here about that. So the children there can be continue to be looked after because they've got the old model devices. We've had some help from Unitron and Phonak, and we fitted the medium power aids are really great now because they can span a considerable spectrum of losses, so we don't need to have as many models as we used to do, and we've sort of had accessories, spare parts and so on, and 2 laptop computers were donated, paid for by DFAT, and we sent them up to Attune in Brisbane, and they set them up with all the software, sent them back, so we took those with us. The laptop we bought years ago, they had to plug in another keyboard into it, because the keyboard didn't work. Now they've got 2 new ones, which is great. And we got a tympanometer, which was donated by a Swiss charity, which I've had some connection with. And so they've got a screening tympanometer, which is really good. Now that's Rowena. She was in the Samoan ladies rugby team, touch rugby team, and she's using this new tympanometer on a child there in the clinic, because they go around to schools checking hearing. Now, fitting adults with hearing aids is, one is always inclined to think that the children, should have priority because they've got the whole life ahead of them. But I did fit, I think 5 adults, and they were, some of them were very distressed about their hearing loss. One of them was sudden, like the guy's soldiering on, and then suddenly his hearing his hearing deteriorates, and they, it was devastating. So they fitted him with hearing aids before we came, and I refitted him. We used these Hearing Matters donated hearing aids. It's unusual to get power aids handed in, but they produced a box of them for us, and I took about 20 or 30. I took them with us, and I fitted some of them. And we also had someone who was he came 5 years ago. I got a photograph of him. He was the head of state and prime minister, and he was really, he came into the clinic to get hearing aids. He didn't have a really bad loss, and he was relatively disinterested in me when I told him that Senese were very short of funds. And he said, "Oh, it's an NGO." Anyway, he came in last time, and he'd lost a lot of hearing, and he had to. He was chairing a session at an international meeting, and he was a lot more interested then. And I sort of, I hope he listened and can do something about the funding situation. The audiology students, I hope, will know that there's a lot of recent research. There was a meeting of the international a sort of you know, online meeting about the effects of hearing loss on things like depression and cognitive decline, and so it's very important that we have organisations like this looking, you know, encouraging people and so on, because it can have a lot of health implications which you wouldn't necessarily immediately think of. So this is a lady who was very, very deaf, fitted with some sort of hearing aid by Senese, and we fitted these two. She's the one we fitted with the power aids, and she was very, very pleased. And the next slide shows the ex-head of state. Tuapa is like a title, you know, and this he'd certainly perked up a bit, and we fitted him with something that we tried with some of the children, a remote microphone, which is much cheaper than the type of devices that are generally used in schools. It's a Bluetooth, you know, enabled mic, and we fitted him with that and some of the kids, and that was it looks like a good solution. So these are a few of the organisations that Cochlear gave us these hearing aids. Next Sense cochlear implants. Rotary Club of Carlingford has we've managed to get funds every year for this and that, and the Rotary Club of Apia has been good at putting pressure on governments, and we actually had one of the Rotarians organised a lunch where we met the lady who's now the Prime Minister, and you know, so and the a retired head of the yeah, head of some government departments to do with health. This is a young lady who we've been seeing since she was very small, and she was a good hearing aid user. She's come back regularly, and she's now working as a seamstress, and you know, which is really good. Now this slide's about the local situation, because it's not something I'm particularly good at, but you have to be very aware of the local situation and think about cultural issues and so on. There's 220,000 people in Samoa. One of the things that attracted me was it looked manageable. When we go to the Philippines, it's, you know, it's 120 million people. You know, that was why I got involved with teaching there rather than clinical work. But here, it looked like we could fit every child who was in need of a hearing aid in Samoa, and but the problem is that training, you know, you can't have a course for teachers of the deaf or, you know, audiometrists. It would have to be a pan-Pacific course, and you know, a lot of the training that say Janelle Cook's done over there with has been very, very useful. But you know, often people from overseas have to go and run a training course, which would be very, very, very useful. We're trying to get some funding at the moment for this, and it's there's some social issues there where there's a hierarchy, which, I mean, I was used to the UK hierarchy, you know, with the working class people who, you know, could go to university. Their children could go to university free of charge, and it didn't seem to occur to them. And very rich people who, you know, who you see in the news and so on. But in Samoa, there isn't much reward for showing initiative. If you're down the pecking order, you just do as you're told, okay? And it's been interesting to see that Rowena, who is low down the pecking order, has been recognised, and they can see how useful she is, and she's gone up from the minimum wage, which is about $9,000 a year, to $18,000 a year, which still isn't much. But you know, I was worried that she'd get fed up and go, but they do seem to have caught cotton on. The other thing is stock control. Stock control in Samoa seemed to me to involve opening the cupboard, seeing there's nothing in there, and asking for some more. You know, the idea that you would think, well, I've only got a month's supply of those, we better get some more. Anyway, slowly, I think the message is getting through that you know, you have to plan ahead a bit. This was a child. This was someone who came in the clinic, very poor vision, and he's very, very deaf. He is using his hearing aids. I mean, this would have been a cochlear implant case, you know. But he's 5 now, and we can't. The sort of getting cochlear implants fitted over there looks extremely difficult at present. However, we live in hopes. So we fitted, you know, second-hand hearing aids using the software, the hearing aid software, doing insertion gain. I must admit, sometimes when pressure's on, I haven't done it, but we have, you know, an effort's made to do the things properly, and Senese have tried to get the children to come back for regular visits. Humidity was a big problem initially, but now the hearing aids are good, you know, because they've got up to a higher level. They used to, the Naidas were fantastic when they first came in, because this particular type of hearing aid was quite resistant to high humidity, and you can imagine what it's like in Samoa. So you know, the new hearing aids are so much better to fit because they're up to a higher standard. And another thing is there are quite a few children with atresia. This is where the ear canal's blocked, and you know, it seems to be, you know, it's genetic condition and so on. And we've been lucky to get these expensive devices. There's one of the young ladies, and she's wearing. We have to fit them on a headband. In Australia, they'd have an abutment, a sort of metal screw put in the head to clip the thing to. But we haven't been able to. I'm trying to get some of the kids fitted with those. Anyway, she didn't tell her parents that she had the device, and they thought the headband was just a headband. And she said that the family used to talk in the evenings, you know, amongst themselves, and she said that she'd heard a lot of really interesting things that she wasn't supposed to hear, and so on. And her other ear had a severe loss, so we fitted her in the other ear when we were there, instead of using the BAHA. This young boy actually came into the clinic. After we left, they didn't bring any BAHAs with them when he came in, so they fitted him after we left with one of these refurbished BAHAs, and you can see, you know, he's just got a little tiny bit of a pinner, same on both sides. And I got the surgeon to come in and said, could we get one of these abutments fitted, and he said he would ask the Australian team when they came, and I followed it up with an email and so on. Let's hope. Okay. Now, in the past, we've had the Senese staff taken to Australia to be taught how to repair hearing aids, but that's less of an issue now because it's mostly we mostly just replace them. We fitted hearing aids like we did in Australia, but I think the Australian audiologist, you know, visited and so on, but perhaps my son John's done some research using sort of like more streamlined, simpler ways to fit hearing aids, and we hope that he sort of he may have a point there. Perhaps we should have focused on that, but you know, you would have to be careful that when you're cutting corners that you don't reduce the effectiveness, but there is some interesting work going on in that area. The ear molds, this irritating situation where one of the local staff's better at taking ear mold impressions than I am, has been a point. But we did make ear molds on site. I got a material from Drave, which it looks like impression material. You put it into the ear and then you use that as the ear mold, but you have to drill it and you're supposed to varnish it and so on. And we have done that. It's very expensive, and it's risky because it was very thin material, and you have to make sure it doesn't go right down the ear canal. We did. Ears Inc. is an organisation in Australia that trains people overseas to make hard acrylic ear molds, and I have thought about that, and they've been very helpful and so on. So that's a possibility. But it looks like ear molds now are made by 3D printing, and I was thinking about scanning the impressions or scanning the ear. It's a bit expensive at the minute, but our colleagues in the Philippines are going in for it, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. It looks like that might be a solution at some stage when the time comes. If we had a scanner, you can just send the impression over to get the ear mold made up. And if a child loses an impression now in Samoa, we've got the scans. We can just make another one up. Wax problems. There was no ENT. There was an ENT surgeon, and then he passed away, and then there was no ENT. And there was a young doctor who used to do the best she could. I got this headlight system, and I used to take wax out. And we also irrigated the ears. What we did was, when you go into hospital and they put a catheter into you, it's something I seem to have regularly done, and it's a thin plastic tube which fits on a hypodermic syringe, and she was using that to irrigate the ears of children because it's a very small stream, but and it wouldn't damage the eardrum. So we use that, and I have actually taken out cotton buds and batteries. I asked the child would they run down after that. No, I didn't. So we took also. My wife. I said, "What on earth's this?" And she said, "It's the end of a cotton bud." And sure enough, it was, because they clean their ears and the ends snap off. So I did do that stuff, which is very naughty. But now we don't need to because there's ENTs and there's a department and young doctors and nurses and so on. So I felt obliged to do it. Oh, we had a visit from the Australian Governor General, and Cristy took this picture of some of the sort of children who'd been fitted at Sanese and had grown up, and there she is with a group of them, because they have been there are a fair number who've kept going. Some have fallen away. A couple of cases. A 15-year-old girl was found wandering the streets. She dropped out of high school, very deaf, pointless being at school. She couldn't tell what was going on, and she was wearing old clothes. And the Sanese staff said she looked a bit unkempt. And the Sanese teacher, Sophia, noticed her, and just figured out, spoke to her and realised what the problem was, and they got her into school. They tested her, got her into the school, and she, when I saw her, she was all dressed in this elaborate uniform with the hair all braided up and so on. And she was using, she had a sign language interpreter. I mean, I'd hate to think what would have happened to her. And another girl came into the clinic years ago. I remembered her, 13-year-old. She didn't have her parents with her because the school hadn't, as we'd asked. It wasn't Sanese, it was another school, low to Tamafly, and she came in by herself. I said, we were saying that she needed hearing aids, and we were signing, the colleagues were signing to her. She wasn't interested, and she came back. She was about 18 or 19, no job, can't speak, and we fitted her then. But it's a good example of what you don't want to see. But we did have an adolescent boy who came in for hearing aids because he couldn't hear music, and it's very unusual to have a 18, 19-year-old male coming in wanting hearing aids, but he was we fitted him, and he sort of was happy. And we had people who couldn't get a job and had came in eventually for hearing aids. Very sad that they didn't have them when they were younger.